Have you ever felt like life was spinning completely out of control? Like the ground beneath your feet was shifting, crumbling, and you couldn't find solid footing anywhere? Maybe it's financial pressure that keeps you awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, running the numbers over and over in your head, wondering how you're going to make it through the next month. Maybe it's a relationship that's falling apart, no matter how hard you try to hold it together, no matter how much effort you pour into fixing what feels irreparably broken. Maybe it's the crushing weight of uncertainty about your future, your health, your family, your career, your purpose. Maybe it's just the relentless, exhausting pace of modern life. The constant demands coming at you from every direction. The never-ending notifications, the overwhelming to-do lists, the expectations from work, from family, from society, from yourself. The noise that never stops, the pressure that never lets up, leaving you feeling completely drained, emotionally exhausted, spiritually empty, mentally fragile. Here's what I want you to know right now. Wherever you are in your journey, whatever you're facing at this very moment, you are not alone in feeling this way. You're not weak because life feels overwhelming. You're not failing because you're struggling. You're not broken beyond repair because everything around you feels unstable. And more importantly, there is ancient wisdom, tested through thousands of years, proven through countless generations, that can anchor your soul when everything around you feels like it's falling apart. The Book of Proverbs isn't just a collection of nice-sounding religious sayings that look good on greeting cards. It's not just poetic wisdom that sounds profound, but has no practical application. No, Proverbs is a manual for living. It's a guidebook for building mental and spiritual strength that can carry you through the fiercest storms of life. It's practical, applicable, transformative truth that has sustained people through every kind of difficulty imaginable: poverty, persecution, war, loss, betrayal, illness, depression, anxiety, and yes, instability. Today, we're going to walk together through 35 powerful lessons from the Book of Proverbs that will transform the way you think, the way you respond to pressure, the way you navigate uncertainty, and the way you build unshakable mental strength. These aren't just religious concepts that only work for pastors and theologians. These are practical, life-changing truths that work in the boardroom and the living room, in the hospital and the workplace, in seasons of abundance and seasons of scarcity. Before we dive into these transformative lessons, I want to connect with you for just a moment. I'd love to know where you're watching from right now. Would you take just a second to drop a comment telling me your city or country? It doesn't matter if you're in New York or Nigeria, London or Lima, Tokyo or Toronto. I want to hear from you. And if you'd rather not share your location, that's completely fine. I understand. Just type "Peace of the Lord" or "Amen" so I know you're here with us, seeking wisdom alongside brothers and sisters from around the world. There's something incredibly powerful about knowing we're not alone in this journey. When you see comments from people in dozens of countries, all seeking the same wisdom, all facing similar struggles, all hungering for truth that can stabilize their lives, it reminds you that you're part of something bigger than yourself. You're part of a global family of faith. And listen, if this message resonates with you, if you're hungry for more biblical wisdom that actually applies to your daily life, not just theoretical theology, but practical truth you can use today, I want to personally invite you to subscribe to this channel. Not just casually clicking a button, but really committing to it. Hit that subscribe button because we're building something incredibly special here. Every single week, we're unpacking ancient truths that speak directly to modern struggles. We're creating a community of people who refuse to let life's instability shake their foundation, who are committed to building their lives on solid rock rather than shifting sand. I also want to extend a heartfelt, genuine invitation to become a member of this channel. Please hear my heart on this. This isn't about money or transactions or some commercial exchange. This is about belonging. This is about standing together in faith as part of a movement that's bringing hope, encouragement, and life-changing truth to people all over the world who desperately need it. When you become a member, you're not just supporting the creation of content. You're joining a spiritual family that's committed to growing stronger together, to encouraging one another through life's storms, to praying for each other, to spreading these life-changing truths to more people who need them. Think of it as your way of saying, I'm all in on this. I believe in this message, I believe in this mission, and I want to help more people find this hope, this wisdom, this strength that comes from God's Word. We would be deeply honored to have you with us. But whether you become a member today or not, I'm genuinely grateful you're here right now, seeking wisdom, opening your heart to truth, investing this time in growing stronger. Now let's dive deep into these 35 lessons that will make you mentally strong when life gets unstable. Lesson 1. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Proverbs chapter 1 verse 7 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." This is where everything starts. This is the foundation upon which all other wisdom is built. And if you miss this, if you skip over this fundamental truth, everything else will be built on shaky ground. Now, when we talk about fearing God, we need to be very clear about what this means, because there's a lot of misunderstanding around this phrase. We're not talking about being terrified of an angry, vengeful deity who's sitting in heaven just waiting to punish you for every mistake. We're not talking about cowering in terror before a cosmic bully. That's not what biblical fear means. The fear of the Lord is a profound reverence, a deep respect, an overwhelming awareness that there is something infinitely greater than yourself, greater than your circumstances, greater than your problems, greater than your understanding. It's recognizing that you are not God, that your perspective is limited, that your wisdom is incomplete, and that you desperately need divine guidance to navigate life successfully. When life gets unstable, the very first thing that happens is we start to feel like we're the center of everything. Our problems become our entire universe. Our anxiety consumes our thoughts from the moment we wake up until we finally fall into restless sleep. Our fears dominate our perspective so completely that we can't see anything else. Everything becomes about us, about our struggle, about our pain, about our uncertainty. But mental strength begins when you shift your focus from yourself to something infinitely larger. When you recognize that God is sovereign, that He reigns over every circumstance, that He sees what you cannot see, that He knows what you do not know, that He understands connections and purposes and plans that are completely beyond your comprehension, suddenly your problems don't look quite so overwhelming. They're still real, they're still difficult, but they're no longer all-consuming because they're held in the hands of a God who is bigger than all of them. This reverence for God creates a foundation of humility, and humility is absolutely essential for mental strength because it keeps you teachable. When you think you know everything, when you're too proud to listen, to learn, to adjust, to admit when you're wrong, you become brittle, you become rigid, you break under pressure because you can't bend, you can't adapt, you can't grow. But when you approach life with the understanding that God's wisdom is infinitely greater than yours, that His ways are higher than your ways, that His thoughts are beyond your thoughts, you remain flexible, you remain open, you remain teachable. You can say, I don't understand this, but I trust you. You can say, this doesn't make sense to me, but I know you see what I don't see. You can say, I feel lost, but I know you know the way. And here's what's beautiful about this. When you fear the Lord, when you live with this reverence and respect for God, it actually removes so many other fears. When you fear God appropriately, you stop fearing circumstances inappropriately. You stop being controlled by fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of loss, fear of the future, because you know that the one you fear in reverence is the one who holds all these things in his hands. The fool, according to this proverb, despises wisdom and instruction. The fool thinks they know better. The fool rejects guidance. The fool refuses to listen. The fool insists on learning everything the hard way. And the result is a life of unnecessary pain, repeated mistakes, and eventual destruction. But the wise person, the mentally strong person, starts with the fear of the Lord. They build their entire life on the foundation of reverence for God. And everything else flows from that. Their decisions, their relationships, their responses to difficulty, their ability to remain stable when everything around them is unstable. Lesson 2. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Proverbs chapter 3 verses 5 and 6 might be the most quoted, most memorized, most beloved verses in the entire book, and for very good reason. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. These verses contain a truth that is simultaneously simple and profoundly difficult to live out. Simple to understand, challenging to practice, easy to quote, hard to embody. When life gets unstable, when circumstances spiral out of your control, your absolute natural instinct is to try to figure everything out. You analyze every detail, you create contingency plans, you strategize about every possible scenario. You try to control every variable, manage every risk, anticipate every problem. You lie awake at night, running through mental simulations of how things might go, what you should do, how you can fix it. And you know what happens? You end up more anxious than when you started. You end up more overwhelmed, more stressed, more mentally exhausted, because you realize, often painfully, that you can't actually control most of what's happening. You can't control the economy. You can't control whether you get that job. You can't control other people's choices. You can't control unexpected circumstances that come out of nowhere and change everything. Mental strength comes when you learn to trust beyond what you can understand. Notice the verse doesn't say trust in the Lord with your understanding. It says trust with all your heart. Your understanding is limited. Your perspective is incomplete. You're looking at your life like someone examining one piece of a massive puzzle, trying to figure out what the whole picture is based on that one fragment. You can't do it. You don't have enough information. But God sees the entire picture. He sees how this difficult chapter you're in right now connects to the next chapter and the one after that. He sees how this painful season is actually preparing you for something better that you can't even imagine yet. He sees how this closed door is protecting you from something that would have hurt you. He sees how this delay is actually perfect timing for what he has planned. Trusting in the Lord with all your heart means releasing your grip on outcomes. It means doing what you can with what you have, using the wisdom and resources available to you, but then releasing the results to God. It means praying about everything, working hard, making wise decisions, but then saying, God, I've done what I can do. The rest is in your hands. I trust you with outcomes I can't control. This doesn't mean you stop thinking. It doesn't mean you stop planning. It doesn't mean you become passive and irresponsible. But it does mean you stop carrying the crushing weight of outcomes that were never yours to control in the first place. Leaning not on your own understanding is so hard because we want to understand. We want everything to make sense. We want to know why and how and when and what's next. We want guarantees. We want certainty. We want to see the whole path before we take the first step. But faith doesn't work that way. Trust doesn't work that way. God rarely shows you the whole journey up front. He shows you the next step. He gives you enough light for where you are right now, and he asks you to trust him for the rest. In all your ways, submit to him, not just in your spiritual life, not just on Sundays, not just in the big decisions, in all your ways, in your work, in your relationships, in your finances, in your daily choices, in everything. Submit it all to him. Acknowledge him. Seek his guidance. Ask for his wisdom. Invite him into every area of your life. And here's the promise. He will make your paths straight. Not necessarily easy, not necessarily comfortable, not necessarily quick, but straight, direct, leading somewhere good. Leading you where you need to go, even if it's not where you thought you wanted to go. This level of trust is what creates mental strength because it removes the burden of trying to be God in your own life. You weren't meant to carry that weight. You weren't designed to have all the answers. You weren't created to control everything. When you release that impossible burden and trust God instead, you experience a peace and a strength that defies logic. Lesson 3, guard your heart above all else. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 delivers one of the most crucial commands in all of Scripture. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Above all else. That means this is priority number 1. This is more important than anything else. Guard your heart. Your heart, in biblical terms, isn't just your emotions, though it includes them. Your heart is the core of who you are. It's your values, your beliefs, your character, your desires, your motivations, your thoughts, your will. It's the source, the wellspring, from which all your thoughts and actions flow. Everything you do, everything you say, every decision you make, every response you have, it all flows from your heart. When life gets unstable, when pressure increases, when stress mounts, when uncertainty dominates, it becomes incredibly easy to let toxic things creep into your heart. Bitterness seeps in when you've been hurt. Resentment builds when things feel unfair. Cynicism develops when you've been disappointed repeatedly. Fear takes root when the future looks uncertain. Negativity becomes your default when you're constantly exposed to bad news. You start consuming content that feeds anxiety instead of faith. You binge-watch news that amplifies fear. You scroll through social media, absorbing other people's drama and negativity. You surround yourself with people who complain constantly, who see the worst in everything, who have given up on hope. You rehearse your grievances, replaying them in your mind until they become part of your identity. You meditate on your fears until they feel more real than God's promises. And before you even realize what's happened, your heart has become a toxic environment that poisons everything in your life. Your relationships suffer because bitterness leaks out. Your decisions become clouded by fear. Your perspective becomes distorted by negativity. Your faith shrinks because you fed doubt more than you fed belief. Mental strength requires ruthless, intentional, deliberate protection of your inner world. You have to be strategic about what you allow into your heart. You have to be selective about what influences you, what shapes you, what fills your mind and spirit. What are you watching? Is it building you up or tearing you down? What are you reading? Is it feeding your faith or feeding your fear? What music are you listening to? Does it point you toward hope or drag you toward despair? What conversations are you engaging in? Are they life-giving or life-draining? Are you spending meaningful time in God's Word, or are you spending hours scrolling through social media, absorbing an endless stream of trivial, negative, anxiety-producing content? Guarding your heart means setting boundaries, real boundaries, not just saying you should set boundaries, but actually doing it. It means saying no to relationships that consistently drain you without pouring anything back. It means limiting your exposure to news and social media, especially during already stressful seasons. It means walking away from conversations that only tear others down. It means being selective about who gets access to your time, your energy, your attention, your inner world. It means choosing gratitude over complaint. Every single day, intentionally finding things to be grateful for, even small things, even in the midst of difficulty. It means choosing hope over cynicism, refusing to let disappointment turn you into someone who expects the worst. It means choosing faith over fear, feeding your faith with truth instead of feeding your fears with speculation. This isn't about being unrealistic. It's not about ignoring problems or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's not about toxic positivity that denies reality. It's about refusing to let external chaos create internal chaos. It's about maintaining a guarded, protected, carefully tended inner world that remains stable even when everything around you is unstable. Your heart is the most valuable thing you have. Everything flows from it. Protect it above all else. Lesson 4. The tongue has the power of life and death. Proverbs chapter 18 verse 21 tells us something that sounds dramatic but is absolutely literally true. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Your words matter more than you possibly realize, especially in unstable times when emotions are high and stress is overwhelming. When everything feels uncertain, when you're struggling, when you're scared, the way you talk to yourself and the way you talk about your situation can either strengthen you or destroy you. Your words are creating your reality in ways you don't even recognize. Think about it. Are you speaking life or death over yourself? When you look in the mirror, what do you say? When you think about your future, what words do you use? When you describe your challenges to others, how do you frame them? When you talk to yourself in your own mind, what's the tone, what's the message? If you're constantly saying things like, "I can't handle this," "Nothing ever works out for me," "I'm never going to get through this," "I always mess everything up," "I'm just not strong enough," you're speaking death. You're reinforcing weakness. You're programming your mind to expect failure. You're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy where you become exactly as weak as you keep declaring yourself to be. Mental strength is built with the words you choose. You have to be intentional about speaking life, about declaring truth, about using your words to build yourself up rather than tear yourself down. Start speaking life. This is incredibly hard, but I'm getting stronger through it. I don't see the way forward yet, but I trust God is making one. I've overcome difficult things before, and I'll overcome this too. I may feel weak right now, but God's strength is made perfect in my weakness. This won't last forever. I will get through this. This isn't fake positivity. This isn't denying reality or pretending you're not struggling. This is faith in action. This is choosing to align your words with God's truth rather than with your temporary feelings. This is speaking to your circumstances instead of letting your circumstances speak to you. And it's not just about how you speak to yourself. It's about how you speak to others, how you speak about others, how you use your words in every interaction. In unstable times, people around you are struggling too. They're stressed, they're anxious, they're hurting. Your words can be medicine or poison to them. You can speak life with encouragement. I believe in you. You're stronger than you think. God's not done with you yet. This season won't last forever. I'm praying for you. These words can literally change someone's day, change their perspective, give them the strength to keep going. Or you can speak death with criticism, gossip, negativity, harsh judgments, careless comments that wound more deeply than you realize. You always do this. You'll never change. That's just who you are. What did you expect? These words kill hope. They crush spirits. They reinforce the worst beliefs people have about themselves. The fruit of your words will come back to you. If you speak life, you'll eat the fruit of life. You'll build yourself up. You'll encourage others who then encourage you. You'll create an environment of hope and strength. But if you speak death, if you're constantly negative, critical, harsh, bitter, you'll eat that fruit too. You'll weaken yourself. You'll push people away. You'll create an environment of despair and dysfunction. Your tongue has power. Use it wisely. Speak life. Lesson 5. A gentle answer turns away wrath. Proverbs chapter 15 verse 1 says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." When life is unstable, when stress levels are through the roof, when everyone is operating on a short fuse, emotions run incredibly high. People are defensive. Tensions escalate quickly. Conflicts that in normal times might be minor disagreements become major blow-ups. Relationships that were already strained can break entirely over things that wouldn't have mattered 6 months ago. Mental strength includes emotional regulation. It includes the ability to respond rather than react. There's a massive difference between these two. Reacting is automatic, emotional, impulsive. Responding is thoughtful, measured, controlled. When someone comes at you with anger, with accusations, with frustration, with harsh words, your natural instinctive reaction might be to match their energy, to defend yourself aggressively, to fight back, to escalate, to make sure they know they can't talk to you that way, to win the argument, to prove you're right and they're wrong. But that only makes things worse. That only creates more instability, more chaos, more damage to relationships that you might need, that you might actually value once everyone calms down. The ability to stay calm, to speak gently, to diffuse tension rather than escalate it, that's real strength. It actually takes more strength to control your tongue than to let it loose. It takes more strength to choose peace than to choose being right. It takes more strength to respond with grace than to respond with equal anger. Think about the last time you were angry and someone responded to you gently instead of matching your anger. It probably took the wind out of your sails. It probably made you feel a little foolish for being so worked up. It probably de-escalated the situation faster than anything else could have. Now think about a time when you were upset and someone responded to you with their own anger, their own harsh words. It probably made you angrier. It probably made the situation worse. It probably escalated into something neither of you intended. A gentle answer doesn't mean you become a doormat. It doesn't mean you never address issues or that you let people walk all over you. It doesn't mean you never set boundaries or stand up for yourself. But it means you do it with a controlled, measured, gentle approach. You can be firm and gentle at the same time. You can set a boundary without being harsh. You can address a problem without attacking the person. When you can remain calm in the storm, when you can be the person who brings peace rather than adds to the chaos, when you can speak gently when everyone else is shouting, you become a stabilizing force, not just in your own life, but in the lives of everyone around you. This is leadership, this is maturity, this is mental and emotional strength. Lesson 6. Pride goes before destruction. Proverbs chapter 16 verse 18 warns us with words that have proven true countless times throughout history. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. When life gets unstable, when you're struggling, when you're facing challenges that are beyond your ability to handle alone, pride can become your greatest enemy. Pride tells you that you should have all the answers, that you should be able to figure this out on your own. That asking for help is weakness, that admitting you're struggling is failure, that showing vulnerability is dangerous, that you need to maintain the image that you have everything together, even when you're falling apart inside. Pride makes you reluctant to ask for help, even when you desperately need it. It keeps you isolated when you need community. It prevents you from reaching out when reaching out could save you. It makes you suffer alone when you could be supported. Pride keeps you from admitting when you're wrong, when you've made a mistake, when your approach isn't working. It makes you double down on failing strategies because changing course would require admitting you were wrong in the first place. It makes you defensive when people offer feedback or correction that could actually help you. Mental strength requires humility, real humility. The kind of humility that can say, I don't know. I was wrong. I need help. I'm struggling. I made a mistake. Can you help me understand this? I'm in over my head here. These aren't signs of weakness. They're signs of wisdom. They're signs of security. They're signs that you're confident enough in who you are that you don't need to pretend to be something you're not, that you don't need to maintain a false image of having it all together. When you're facing instability and you try to handle everything alone, when you refuse to admit you're overwhelmed, when you put on a facade that everything's fine while you're crumbling inside, you're setting yourself up for a fall. You're creating more pressure, more stress, more isolation. You're cutting yourself off from the very support and help that could stabilize you. But when you can be humble enough to be honest, to be vulnerable, to reach out, to say, I can't do this alone, you open the door for support, for wisdom, for genuine help. You allow people to come alongside you. You create space for community to function the way it's supposed to. You access resources and perspective and strength beyond your own. Pride also keeps you stuck because it makes you unteachable. When someone offers you feedback, when they share a perspective you hadn't considered, when they point out something you're not seeing, pride makes you reject it immediately. Pride says, they don't understand. They're wrong. I know better. And so you keep doing the same thing, expecting different results, never learning, never growing, never changing. Humility keeps you flexible, teachable, open to correction, willing to adjust, able to learn from mistakes instead of repeating them endlessly. And that flexibility, that teachability, that's what allows you to adapt, to grow, to become actually stronger. Pride might make you feel strong in the moment, but it's a brittle, fragile strength that shatters under real pressure. Humility creates a strong, flexible, resilient strength that bends without breaking. Lesson 7, walk with the wise and become wise. Proverbs. Chapter 13, verse 20 says, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. B. When life gets unstable, who you surround yourself with becomes critically, crucially important. This isn't just nice advice. This is a fundamental truth about how human beings work, how we're influenced, how we grow or diminish based on the company we keep. You become like the people you spend the most time with. It's inevitable. Their attitudes influence your attitude. Their choices influence your choices. Their faith or lack of it influences your faith. Their habits become your habits. Their perspective shapes your perspective. Their language becomes your language. If you're constantly around people who panic at every difficulty, who complain constantly about everything, who see every situation through a lens of victimhood and helplessness, who have given up on hope and resigned themselves to defeat, that's going to wear you down. It's going to weaken your resolve. It's going to make you mentally fragile. You'll start to sound like them, think like them, respond like them. But if you intentionally surround yourself with people who have wisdom, who have been through hard things and came out stronger, who have faith that doesn't crumble under pressure, who know how to persevere, who have hope that's rooted in something deeper than circumstances, you're going to absorb that strength. You're going to learn from their example. You're going to be encouraged by their stories. You're going to be challenged by their faith. Mental strength is not just an individual effort. It's cultivated in community. It's developed through relationships. You need people who are further along in their journey than you are, people who have the kind of faith you want to have, the kind of resilience you want to develop, the kind of wisdom you need to gain. Find those people. Seek them out intentionally. Don't just hope they'll randomly show up in your life. Be deliberate about pursuing relationships with people who can speak into your life, who can mentor you, who can show you what strength looks like in action. Spend time with them, not just casual surface-level interactions, but real time. Listen to them, Really listen. Ask them questions about how they've navigated difficulty, how they've maintained faith when things didn't make sense, how they've built mental and spiritual strength over years. Learn from them. Let their wisdom and strength rub off on you, and be intentional about limiting time with people who consistently drag you down. This doesn't mean you abandon everyone who's struggling. It doesn't mean you have no compassion for people who are going through hard times. But it does mean you can't let other people's chaos become your chaos. You can't let someone else's dysfunction destabilize you. You can love people from a distance. You can pray for people without being enmeshed in their drama. You can have compassion without being consumed. You can set boundaries that protect your mental and spiritual health while still caring about others. The companion of fools suffers harm. That's not judgment. That's reality. If you surround yourself with foolish people, people who make consistently poor decisions, people who reject wisdom, people who live recklessly, you will suffer harm. Their choices will impact you. Their drama will drain you. Their foolishness will influence you. Choose your companions wisely. Your mental strength depends on it. Lesson 8. Listen to advice and accept instruction. Proverbs chapter 19 verse 20 tells us, "Listen to advice and accept discipline, and at the end you will be counted among the wise." When life is unstable, when you're navigating unfamiliar territory, when you're facing challenges you've never faced before, you desperately need wisdom that's greater than your own. You need perspective you don't have. You need insight that only comes from experience you haven't lived yet. Mental strength includes the willingness to listen, to really listen. Not just wait politely for your turn to talk. Not just pretend to hear while you're really formulating your response. Not just go through the motions of asking for advice while you've already decided what you're going to do, but actually, genuinely, humbly listen. When someone who has walked a difficult road offers you guidance, don't dismiss it because you want to do things your way. When someone who has lived longer than you shares wisdom from their experience, don't ignore it because you think times have changed and their advice doesn't apply anymore. When circumstances are teaching you a painful lesson, don't refuse to learn it because it's uncomfortable or because it challenges your pride. The strongest people, the wisest people, the most mentally resilient people are the most teachable people. They know they don't have all the answers. They actively seek wisdom. They ask questions constantly. They study. They read. They observe. They learn from everyone and everything around them. They're willing to admit when their approach isn't working and try something different. They don't make the same mistake over and over because their pride won't let them learn. Accepting instruction also means accepting correction. This is harder because correction implies you're doing something wrong, and nobody likes to hear that. When someone you trust points out a blind spot, a character issue, a pattern that's hurting you, a behavior that's undermining your own goals, it's so easy to get defensive, to explain, to justify, to deflect, to point out their flaws to avoid dealing with your own. But mental strength says, "Thank you for caring enough to be honest with me. Thank you for being willing to have this uncomfortable conversation. Let me think about what you've said. Let me consider whether there's truth in it that I need to hear, even if I don't like hearing it." That kind of openness to growth, that kind of humility to receive correction, that's what transforms people. That's what allows you to actually change, to improve, to become better instead of just staying stuck in the same patterns year after year. The promise is that at the end, you will be counted among the wise. Not necessarily at the beginning, not necessarily immediately, but at the end, after you've listened, after you've accepted instruction, after you've applied what you've learned, after you've allowed correction to shape you, you will be wise. You will have the kind of wisdom that can only be gained through humble, teachable experience. Lesson 9. The righteous person falls 7 times and rises again. Proverbs chapter 24 verse 16 says, For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes. Notice something crucial here. It doesn't say the righteous never fall. It doesn't say the righteous have an easy path. It doesn't say the righteous are protected from difficulty, from failure, from mistakes, from setbacks. It says they fall 7 times. In biblical language, 7 represents completeness, fullness. It means they fall repeatedly. They fall many times. They experience failure. They make mistakes. They face setbacks. They get knocked down by life over and over again. But here's the difference. They rise again. Mental strength isn't about never failing. It's not about never struggling. It's not about never falling down. It's about getting back up every single time. It's about resilience, perseverance, the refusal to stay down. When life knocks you down, and it absolutely will, the question isn't whether you fell. The question is whether you'll stay down or get back up. That's where mental strength is proven, not in avoiding difficulty, but in how you respond to it. When you face setbacks, when your plans fall apart, when you make mistakes, when things don't work out the way you hoped, when doors close, when relationships end, when you fail at something you worked so hard for, you have a choice. You can stay on the ground, defeated, believing the lie that this failure defines you, that you'll never recover, that you should just give up. Or you can get back up, feel the pain, process the disappointment, grieve what you lost, acknowledge the hurt. But then stand back up, learn from what happened, adjust your approach, and keep moving forward. The difference between people who develop real mental strength and people who don't isn't that mentally strong people have easier lives. It's not that they have fewer problems or less significant challenges. It's that they refuse to stay down. They cry. They process their emotions. They grieve their losses. They feel the pain deeply and honestly. But then they stand back up. They try again. They find a different approach. They keep going. That's what makes them strong. Every time you get back up after being knocked down, you're building resilience. You're proving to yourself that you can survive hard things. You're developing muscle memory for perseverance. You're creating a history of overcoming that you can draw on the next time life knocks you down. You're also learning. Each fall teaches you something if you're willing to learn. What worked? What didn't? What do you need to do differently next time? How can you be wiser, better prepared, more resilient? The righteous don't just fall and rise. They fall, learn, and rise stronger. The wicked stumble when calamity strikes because they have no foundation, no resilience, no history of getting back up. They've never developed the mental strength that comes from repeatedly choosing to rise after falling. So when real calamity comes, they crumble. But you don't have to be one of them. You can choose right now to be someone who rises, someone who perseveres, someone who refuses to let failure be final. So when you fall, and you will, don't waste time beating yourself up endlessly or wallowing in defeat. Feel what you need to feel, process it honestly, but then get back up and keep going. That's strength, that's resilience, that's the path to becoming unshakable. Lesson 10. Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. Proverbs chapter 12 verse 25 says, "Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up." If you've ever experienced real anxiety, you know exactly what this verse means. Anxiety feels like a physical weight pressing down on your chest, making it hard to breathe, hard to think clearly, hard to function normally. The weight of worry about the future, about what might happen, about all the terrible possibilities, the weight of financial anxiety, wondering how you'll make it through next month, the weight of relationship anxiety, afraid of losing someone you love, the weight of health anxiety, terrified of what that symptom might mean, the weight of general uncertainty, not knowing what's coming next. It's crushing, exhausting, debilitating. In unstable times, anxiety can feel overwhelming and constant. It's the background noise of your life, always there, always pressing, always stealing your peace. Mental strength includes recognizing when anxiety is taking over and knowing how to combat it. And one of the most powerful, most effective tools you have is connection. Reaching out, allowing kind words, words of encouragement, words of hope, words of truth to penetrate the darkness of worry. Don't isolate yourself when you're anxious. Don't convince yourself that nobody understands or that you're bothering people if you reach out. Don't lock yourself away with your worries until they become so loud you can't hear anything else. Reach out to someone you trust. Call a friend who speaks life. Go to church and let yourself be surrounded by community. Join a small group where you can be honest about your struggles. Send a message to someone who always seems to have wisdom. Sometimes all it takes is one kind word, one person reminding you that you're not alone, one voice speaking truth over the lies that anxiety whispers to you, and suddenly the weight lifts just a little bit. You can breathe again. You can think a bit more clearly. You can remember that your anxiety isn't the whole truth. And here's the other side of this truth, the flip side that's equally important. You can be that kind word for someone else. When you're going through hard times, it's so easy to become completely self-absorbed, so focused on your own struggles that you stop seeing the people around you, stop noticing their pain, stop being available to encourage them. But one of the most effective ways to combat your own anxiety is to encourage someone else. When you speak life into someone else's situation, when you remind them of God's faithfulness, when you offer them hope, when you point them back to truth, something shifts in your own heart too. You're reminded that you still have something to offer, that your struggle hasn't made you useless, that you can still be a blessing even while you're hurting. Encouraging others actually strengthens you. It takes your mind off your own problems for a moment. It reminds you that you're not the only one struggling. It connects you to purpose beyond your own pain. It activates faith in you as you call forth faith in someone else. So be intentional about this. When anxiety is weighing you down, reach out. Let others speak kind words over you. And when you see someone else struggling, speak kind words over them. Be the encouragement you need. Lift the weight for someone else, and you'll often find your own weight becoming more bearable. Lesson 11. Commit your work to the Lord. Proverbs chapter 16 verse 3 says, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans." When life is unstable, especially when it comes to your work, your career, your business, your calling, your purpose, it's incredibly easy to feel like you're spinning your wheels, like you're working incredibly hard, but going nowhere, like you're putting in all this effort and not seeing any results. Mental strength in your work comes from committing it to God first. Before you worry about results, before you obsess over outcomes, before you tie your worth and identity to your success or failure. When you commit your work to the Lord, you're saying something profound. God, I'm going to do my absolute best with what I have, but I'm trusting you with the results. I'm doing this for your glory, not just for my own gain. I'm working with integrity and excellence because I'm ultimately working for you. This completely changes how you handle setbacks in your work. If you're doing your work primarily for your own validation, for your own sense of worth, for your own need to feel successful, then every failure feels deeply personal. Every rejection feels crushing. Every closed door feels like a verdict on your value as a person. Every criticism feels like an attack on your identity. But when you're committed to doing excellent work, as an offering to God, as an act of worship, as a way of honoring Him with your talents and efforts, success and failure don't define you anymore. They're just outcomes. Outcomes you care about, outcomes you work toward, but not outcomes that determine your worth. You can handle disappointment because your identity isn't tied to whether this particular project succeeds or fails. You can keep working when results are slow in coming because you're not working for results alone. You're working because you're committed to honoring God with your effort, regardless of outcomes. Committing your work to the Lord also means working with integrity, with excellence, with diligence, regardless of whether anyone's watching or rewarding you. It means doing the right thing even when it costs you. It means refusing to compromise your values for advancement. It means serving others through your work, not just serving yourself. It means being honest even when dishonesty would be more profitable. It means working hard even when you could get away with less effort. And when you work this way, with this kind of commitment to God, the promise is that He will establish your plans, maybe not in the timeline you want, probably not exactly the way you expect, possibly through a completely different path than you imagined, but He will establish them. You might work faithfully for years with little visible progress, and then suddenly everything comes together in ways you never could have orchestrated. You might experience setbacks that seem devastating at the time, only to realize later that they redirected you to something much better. You might see doors close that you desperately wanted to walk through, only to find that God was protecting you from something that would have harmed you. Trust the process. Commit your work to Him. Do your best, and let God handle the rest. Lesson 12. The fear of man is a snare. Proverbs chapter 29 verse 25 says, "Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe." When life gets unstable, when you're vulnerable and uncertain, the fear of what other people think can become absolutely paralyzing. You worry about being judged. You worry about disappointing people. You worry about what they'll say if you fail, if you struggle, if you can't keep up the image of having it all together. You worry about their approval, their acceptance, their opinions. You make decisions based on what will look good to others, rather than what's actually best. You hide your struggles because you're afraid of being seen as weak. You pursue paths you don't even want because that's what's expected of you. Mental strength requires breaking free from the fear of man. You have to reach a point where God's opinion of you matters more than anyone else's, where you're more concerned with being faithful than with being popular, where you're more focused on doing what's right than on doing what's impressive, where you're more interested in pleasing God than in pleasing people. The fear of man is a snare, a trap that keeps you in bondage. It makes you make decisions based on other people's expectations rather than God's leading. It makes you hide who you really are to present an acceptable image. It makes you pursue things you don't genuinely want just to meet someone else's definition of success. It steals your energy, drains your peace, and prevents you from being who God created you to be. It keeps you living someone else's life instead of your own. Think about how much energy you waste worrying about what people think, how much mental and emotional bandwidth you spend trying to manage their perceptions of you. How many decisions you make based on fear of judgment rather than based on wisdom and conviction. But when you trust in the Lord, when you rest in His approval, when you know deeply that your worth comes from Him and not from people's opinions, you're free. You're kept safe. Safe from the manipulation of needing everyone's approval. Safe from the exhaustion of constantly performing. Safe from the disappointment of never measuring up to impossible standards. You can make difficult decisions without being controlled by fear of what people will say. You can be honest about your struggles without worrying about being seen as weak. You can pursue your calling even if people don't understand it, don't approve of it, don't think it's impressive enough. You can set boundaries even if it makes people uncomfortable or upset. You can say no without explaining yourself endlessly. You can be who God made you to be without constantly editing yourself to fit others' expectations. This is mental freedom. This is mental strength. This is what it looks like to be kept safe by trusting in the Lord rather than being trapped by fear of man. It doesn't mean you don't care at all what anyone thinks. It doesn't mean you're reckless or inconsiderate. But it means their opinions don't control you, don't define you, don't dictate your choices. You're anchored in something deeper and more secure than human approval. Lesson 13, do not boast about tomorrow. Proverbs chapter 27 verse 1 says, "Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring." In unstable times, this wisdom becomes absolutely crucial. You genuinely cannot predict the future. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. You don't know what challenges you'll face, what opportunities will arise, what changes will come completely out of nowhere. Mental strength comes from staying present, from being fully engaged with where you are right now, rather than constantly living in an imaginary future that may never arrive. So much anxiety, so much mental exhaustion comes from projecting into the future, from trying to control things that haven't happened yet, from worrying about scenarios that may never materialize, from attempting to plan for every possible contingency, from making decisions about situations that don't even exist yet. You lie awake playing out 100 different versions of how something might go. You catastrophize, imagining worst-case scenarios in vivid detail. You try to prepare for every possible problem. You make yourself sick with worry about things that might never happen. Jesus said, "Don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will worry about itself." Each day has enough trouble of its own. That's wisdom. That's practical truth. Today has enough challenges without borrowing tomorrow's challenges and adding them to today's burden. This doesn't mean you don't plan. Planning is wise. Being responsible is good. Thinking ahead is prudent. But boasting about tomorrow, which really means putting all your confidence in your own plans and assumptions about how things will go, that's foolish. Because life will humble you. Circumstances will change. Things you were counting on will fall through. Things you never expected will happen. How many times have you been absolutely certain about how something would go, only to have it go completely differently? How many times have your plans fallen apart? How many times has life surprised you with things you never saw coming, and yet you keep trying to control the uncontrollable, predict the unpredictable, secure an uncertain future? Instead of boasting about tomorrow, instead of placing all your confidence in your ability to control what comes next, trust God with tomorrow. Focus on being faithful today. Do what's in front of you today. Make the best decisions you can with the information you have today. Use the resources available to you today. Be present with the people in front of you today, and then trust that when tomorrow comes, God will give you what you need for tomorrow. The grace you need will be there. The wisdom you need will be available. The strength you need will be provided. Not today because you don't need it today, but tomorrow when you actually need it. This present-focused mindset builds mental strength because it keeps you from being overwhelmed by the weight of an uncertain future. You're not carrying tomorrow's burdens today. You're not carrying next week's problems today. You're not carrying next year's challenges today. You're just carrying today's, and God gives you grace sufficient for today. Tomorrow will have its own grace. Trust that. Stay present. Stop boasting about tomorrow. Live today. Let me pause here for just a moment to share something from my heart. If this message has been resonating with you, if you feel like God is using these ancient truths from Proverbs to speak directly into your current situation, I want to invite you to be part of something meaningful. Becoming a member of this channel isn't about a transaction. It's about belonging to a community of faith that spans the entire globe. It's about standing together with brothers and sisters you may never meet in person, but who are seeking the same wisdom, facing similar struggles, and building the same kind of mental and spiritual strength that comes from God's Word. When you become a member, you're doing more than supporting the creation of content. You're helping us reach more people who desperately need these truths. You're enabling us to continue bringing hope and practical wisdom to people who are struggling, who feel lost, who need an anchor in unstable times. This is a movement of faith, a community built on the foundation of God's timeless wisdom, and we would be deeply, genuinely honored to have you as part of it. If you feel led, if your heart is stirred, consider joining us as a member. But whether you do or not, I'm so grateful you're here right now, seeking truth, growing stronger, opening your heart to wisdom. Now let's continue with more lessons that will strengthen you. Lesson 14. A cheerful heart is good medicine. Proverbs chapter 17 verse 22 says, "A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones." When life is unstable, when everything feels heavy and overwhelming, when the weight of your circumstances is crushing, it's so easy to lose your joy. Everything feels serious, grim, dark. You forget how to laugh. You forget how to find moments of lightness and peace in the midst of difficulty. You forget that joy is even possible when you're going through something hard. But mental strength includes the ability to maintain joy even in difficult seasons, not fake happiness. Not pretending you're not struggling, not denying the reality of your pain, but genuine, deep-rooted joy that comes from knowing God is with you, that this season won't last forever, that there is still beauty and goodness to be found even in broken places. Laughter really is medicine. Scientific research has proven what this ancient proverb declared thousands of years ago. Joy, laughter, cheerfulness. They literally strengthen you physically, mentally, and emotionally. They release beneficial chemicals in your brain. They reduce stress hormones. They boost your immune system. They give you energy. They help you keep going when you're exhausted. When you can find reasons to be grateful, when you can notice the small blessings, when you can laugh with loved ones, even while you're navigating major challenges, it lifts the weight just a little bit. It gives you a moment of relief. It reminds you that life isn't only hard, only painful, only dark. Don't feel guilty for experiencing joy in difficult seasons. Don't feel like you have to be serious and somber all the time just because things are hard. Don't think that finding moments of laughter or delight somehow means you're not taking your situation seriously enough or that you don't care enough about your problems. God wants you to have life and have it abundantly. He wants you to know joy, not just when everything is going well, but always, even in the valley, even in the storm, even in the wilderness. Your circumstances don't have to be perfect for you to experience joy, because joy isn't dependent on circumstances. It's rooted in something deeper, something that can't be taken away by external factors. Protecting your joy, cultivating it intentionally, choosing it deliberately, that's not frivolous. That's not shallow. That's not irresponsible. That's survival. That's wisdom. That's strength. Find things that make you laugh. Spend time with people who bring you joy. Do things you enjoy, even small things. Watch something funny. Listen to music that lifts your spirit. Take moments to appreciate beauty. Notice things to be grateful for. Choose to smile even when you don't feel like it, because sometimes the action precedes the feeling. A crushed spirit dries up the bones. When you lose all joy, when you allow the weight to crush your spirit completely, it weakens you in every way. Your body suffers. Your mind suffers. Your relationships suffer. Everything becomes harder when your spirit is crushed, but a cheerful heart is good medicine. It heals, it strengthens, it sustains. Cultivate it, protect it, choose it. Lesson 15. The wise store up knowledge. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 14 says, "The wise store up knowledge, but the mouth of a fool invites ruin." When life gets unstable, knowledge becomes an incredibly valuable asset. Not just information, not just facts you've memorized, but wisdom, understanding, practical skills, spiritual truths, discernment, insight that guides you through difficult decisions. Mental strength requires continuous learning. Don't just coast through life passively reacting to whatever happens. Don't just consume entertainment and distraction. Be intentional about growing, about learning from every experience, about seeking wisdom from God's Word, from wise people, from books, from your own successes and failures. When you store up knowledge, you're building a reservoir of wisdom to draw from when you need it. You're preparing yourself for challenges before they come. You're developing discernment that helps you navigate complexity. You're equipping yourself to make better decisions, to see options you wouldn't have seen otherwise, to solve problems more effectively. Think about it like this. If you're facing a financial crisis and you've never taken the time to learn about finances, to understand how money works, to develop skills in budgeting and planning, you're going to be at a severe disadvantage. But if you've been storing up knowledge about finances for years, reading books, learning from mentors, studying principles of stewardship, you'll have tools to draw from when the crisis hits. The same is true for relationships, for parenting, for health, for career, for every area of life. The more you've stored up knowledge and wisdom in advance, the better equipped you are when challenges come. This also means being selective and intentional about what you fill your mind with. Are you storing up knowledge that actually helps you, that builds you up, that equips you for life? Or are you just consuming content that entertains you, distracts you, makes you more anxious without adding any value to your life? Read books that challenge you, that stretch your thinking, that introduce you to new perspectives and ideas. Listen to teaching that strengthens your faith, that deepens your understanding of Scripture, that helps you apply truth to your life. Have conversations that make you think, that expose you to wisdom you don't yet have. Study Scripture consistently, deeply, not just reading words but really seeking to understand and apply them. Invest in your mind the same way you'd invest in any other area of your life. Take courses, learn new skills, seek out mentors, study people who've succeeded in areas where you want to grow. Be curious, ask questions, never stop learning. The wise store up knowledge, the fool doesn't. The fool wastes time on things that don't matter, fills their mind with garbage, never learns from mistakes, never grows. And the mouth of a fool invites ruin, because without knowledge and wisdom, everything they say and do leads to disaster. But you can choose to be wise. You can choose to store up knowledge. You can choose to be a lifelong learner. And that choice will make you infinitely stronger when life gets unstable. Lesson 16. A hot-tempered person stirs up conflict. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 18 says, "A hot-tempered person stirs up conflict, but the one who is patient calms a quarrel." When life is unstable, when stress levels are sky-high, when everyone is operating on a short fuse because they're overwhelmed and exhausted, it becomes incredibly easy to be short-tempered, irritable, reactive, ready to snap at any moment. But losing your temper doesn't make you strong. It makes you destructive. It damages relationships. It creates more chaos. It makes every situation worse. Mental strength includes emotional control. Real emotional control. Not suppression, where you stuff everything down and pretend you're not feeling what you're feeling, but regulation, where you feel your emotions fully, but you don't allow them to control your behavior. You can feel anger without being controlled by it. You can feel frustration without exploding. You can feel irritation without taking it out on the people around you. When you can remain patient under pressure, when you can stay calm when everyone else is losing it, when you can maintain composure when circumstances would justify flying off the handle, that's real power. That's genuine strength. Patience calms quarrels. When someone is upset and you respond with patience instead of matching their energy, you de-escalate the situation. When there's conflict brewing and you can stay level-headed, thoughtful, measured in your response, you create space for resolution instead of escalation. Think about the last time you were really angry and someone responded to you with patience, with calmness, with a gentle, measured tone, it probably took the wind out of your sails, didn't it? It probably made you feel a bit foolish for being so worked up. It probably helped you calm down faster than anything else could have. Now think about a time when you were upset and someone responded to you with their own anger, their own harsh words, their own loss of control. It probably made everything worse, didn't it? It probably escalated the conflict. It probably said or did things you both regretted. A hot-tempered person stirs up conflict everywhere they go, in their workplace, in their home, in their relationships. They create drama, chaos, hurt. They damage relationships that matter. They say things in anger they can't take back. They make bad decisions in the heat of emotion that have lasting consequences. Learning to control your temper is one of the most important aspects of mental and emotional strength. It protects your relationships. It protects your reputation. It protects your peace. It prevents you from doing damage that takes years to repair. This doesn't mean you suppress your emotions, that you never express anger or frustration. That's not healthy either. But it means you process your emotions, you feel them, you express them in appropriate ways, at appropriate times, to appropriate people. It means you don't let temporary emotions drive permanent decisions. It means you don't say things you can't unsay just because you're angry in the moment. When you feel your temper rising, pause. Take a breath. Step away if you need to. Don't respond immediately when you're heated. Give yourself time to calm down, to think clearly, to respond rather than react. You can be firm without being harsh. You can address problems without attacking people. You can set boundaries without losing control. You can stand up for yourself without destroying relationships. That's strength. That's maturity. That's the path to stability, even when life is unstable. I hope these lessons from Proverbs are strengthening your soul right now. We're going to continue with even more wisdom that will transform how you navigate life's instability, but there are still more powerful truths ahead. Stay with me. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 16 says, "Better a little with the fear of the Lord than great wealth with turmoil." Because in unstable times, especially when you're experiencing economic instability, financial pressure, when bills are piling up and you don't know how you're going to make ends meet, there's an incredibly strong temptation to chase after security through money, through accumulation, through striving for more and more and more. The world tells you that if you just had more money, everything would be better. If you could just get that raise, that promotion, that business deal, that windfall, then you'd finally have peace. Then you'd finally feel secure. Then you'd finally be able to relax and breathe easy. But here's what this ancient proverb understood that we so often forget. Peace is more valuable than wealth. A simple life lived with integrity and faith is better than a complex, stressful life with a big bank account, but no rest for your soul. Having just enough with God is infinitely better than having abundance without Him. Think about people you know who have significant wealth. Are they peaceful? Are they content? Are they mentally strong and emotionally stable? Often the answer is no, because money doesn't solve the problems of the soul. It doesn't provide the stability that comes from faith. It doesn't give you the peace that comes from walking with God. In fact, great wealth often brings its own unique set of problems, its own kind of turmoil, the stress of managing it, the fear of losing it, the complicated relationships that come when people know you have money, the uncertainty about people's motives, the constant pressure to make more, to protect what you have, to grow your portfolio, the anxiety that comes with market fluctuations, the burden of deciding how to use it wisely. Better a little with the fear of the Lord. Better to have just enough, to live simply, to not have excess, but to have peace. To sleep well at night knowing you've lived with integrity. To have relationships that aren't complicated by money. to be free from the anxiety that comes with trying to protect and grow wealth, to have time for what matters because you're not consumed with earning and managing more and more. This doesn't mean you shouldn't work hard. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be financially responsible or try to provide well for your family. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with having money or that poverty is more spiritual than prosperity. But it means you don't sell your soul for financial gain. You don't compromise your values to get a promotion. You don't sacrifice your integrity for a bigger paycheck. You don't work yourself into the ground, neglecting your health and your relationships and your walk with God, all in pursuit of wealth that won't satisfy you anyway. When you fear the Lord, when you prioritize your relationship with Him, when you live according to His principles, when you trust Him as your provider, you have peace that money absolutely cannot buy. You have stability that doesn't depend on your bank account or your investment portfolio. You have security that no economic downturn can take away. You have contentment that isn't contingent on getting more. Better a little with peace than a lot with turmoil. Better enough with joy than excess with anxiety. Better simple with God than complicated without Him. Better to have less materially, but more spiritually. Better to be rich in faith than rich in possessions, but poor in soul. This perspective shift is absolutely crucial for mental strength because it frees you from the endless, exhausting, ultimately futile chase for more. It frees you from the trap of thinking that your next level of income will finally make you feel secure. It lets you be content. It lets you rest. It lets you find stability in something that can't be taken away by market crashes or job losses or economic instability. Your mental strength isn't built on your financial strength. It's built on your faith. And when your faith is strong, you can handle financial instability without falling apart, because your security isn't in money anyway. It's in God. Lesson 18. Whoever heeds correction gains understanding. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 32 says, "Whoever heeds discipline shows the way to life, but whoever ignores correction leads others astray." One of the single most difficult aspects of developing genuine mental strength is the ability to receive correction well, to accept discipline, to hear hard truths about yourself, and respond with humility and openness rather than defensiveness and denial. When life is unstable and you're already feeling vulnerable, already feeling like you're barely holding it together, and then someone points out something you're doing wrong, something you need to change, an area where you're not showing up well, a mistake you're making, your absolute first instinct is going to be to defend yourself, to explain away their concern, to justify your actions, to deflect by pointing out their flaws, to minimize what they're saying, to make excuses. But that defensive response is actually weakness disguised as strength. It feels like you're protecting yourself, standing up for yourself, refusing to be pushed around. But what you're actually doing is refusing to grow. You're closing the door on information you desperately need. You're choosing comfort over growth, ego protection over transformation. Real strength, genuine mental fortitude looks completely different. Real strength says, "You're right, I can see that now. Thank you for caring enough to tell me. Thank you for being willing to have this uncomfortable conversation with me. I need to work on that. I'm going to think seriously about what you've said and make some changes." Correction is actually a gift, even though it absolutely doesn't feel like one in the moment when you're receiving it. When someone corrects you, they're giving you information you need in order to grow, to improve, to become better, to avoid future problems. They're showing you a blind spot you couldn't see on your own. They're pointing out a pattern that's hurting you or others. They're offering you an opportunity to change course before you do more damage. When life itself corrects you through consequences, through failures, through closed doors, through painful experiences, it's showing you what needs to change. It's providing feedback through circumstances. And you can either receive that correction and grow from it, or you can ignore it and keep repeating the same destructive patterns. The people who develop the strongest mental resilience, the greatest wisdom, the deepest character are the people who can hear correction without crumbling, without getting bitter, without shutting down completely. They're the people who can say, "That hurts to hear. That's hard to accept. But I need to hear it. I need to sit with this. I need to examine whether there's truth in what's being said." They're the people who actually make changes based on feedback instead of just getting defensive and staying stuck in the same self-destructive patterns year after year after year. Think about your own life. When someone has corrected you in the past, how have you responded? Have you been defensive? Have you made excuses? Have you rejected what they said without really considering it? Have you gotten angry at them for having the audacity to point out your flaws? Or have you been able to step back, calm your defensive instincts, and really consider whether there might be truth in what they're saying? Have you been able to thank them even when it was hard to hear? Have you been able to make actual changes as a result? If you ignore correction, if you refuse to receive it, if you reject everyone who tries to give you honest feedback, you will keep making the same mistakes. You'll keep hitting the same walls. You'll keep wondering why nothing in your life changes while refusing to change the only thing you actually can control, which is yourself. You'll lead yourself astray, and you'll lead others astray too, because people are watching how you handle correction and learning from your example. But when you heed correction, when you actually do something constructive with the feedback you receive, when you allow it to shape you and change you and refine you, you grow, you gain understanding, you become wiser, you become stronger, you become better. You show others the way to life by modeling what it looks like to be teachable, humble, and committed to growth. The next time someone offers you correction, before you get defensive, before you reject it, pause, take a breath, say thank you. Tell them you'll think about what they've said, then actually think about it, really consider it. Ask yourself if there might be truth in it. Ask God to show you if there's something you need to see, and if there is, have the courage to make the change. That's mental strength, that's wisdom, that's the path to becoming the person God created you to be. Lesson 19, the name of the Lord is a fortified tower. Proverbs chapter 18 verse 10 says, "The name of the Lord is a fortified tower. The righteous run to it and are safe." And when life gets profoundly unstable, when everything around you is falling apart, when circumstances are spinning out of control, when you feel like you're drowning in problems and pressures, you desperately need a place of safety, a refuge, a fortress, somewhere you can run when everything else is crumbling. That place is the presence of God. The name of the Lord represents everything God is: His character, His power, His faithfulness, His love, His protection, His sovereignty. When you run to Him, you're running to safety that no circumstance can breach, to a fortress that no storm can destroy. Mental strength is profoundly, inextricably connected to spiritual strength. You cannot separate the two. When you know God, when you have a genuine, living, breathing relationship with Him, when you've learned to run to Him in times of trouble, you have access to a source of strength that goes infinitely beyond your own limited human capacity. You have a fortress that cannot be shaken by external circumstances, no matter how severe they are. Running to God doesn't mean running away from your problems. It's not escapism. It's not avoidance. It's not pretending your difficulties don't exist. Running to God means bringing your fears to the one who is greater than anything you fear. It means bringing your questions to the one who has answers. It means bringing your weakness to the one who is infinitely strong. It means bringing your confusion to the one who sees clearly. It means bringing your exhaustion to the one who renews your strength. Too many people try to be their own fortress. They try to be strong enough on their own, smart enough on their own, capable enough on their own, self-sufficient enough on their own. and they collapse under the weight of that impossible burden, because no human being was ever designed to be their own ultimate source of strength and security. We were created to depend on God. We were designed to find our strength in Him. We were meant to run to Him when we're overwhelmed, when we're afraid, when we're hurting, when we don't know what to do. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's how we were made to function. But when you learn to run to God, when His name becomes your safe place, when His presence becomes your refuge, when you've experienced His faithfulness enough times to trust Him even when you can't see the way forward, you have a stability that nothing can shake. Your circumstances can be chaos, but your soul can be at peace. Your situation can be uncertain, but your foundation can be firm. Your future can be unclear, but your security can be unshakable. This is cultivated through consistent practices that connect you to God, through prayer that's honest and real, not just religious formulas, but genuine conversation with your Father. Through worship that engages your heart, that reminds you of who God is and what He's done. Through time in God's Word, not just reading words on a page, but really seeking to encounter God through Scripture, to hear His voice, to know His heart. It's cultivated through remembering. Remembering all the times God has been faithful before. Remembering how He provided when you didn't know how needs would be met. Remembering how He opened doors when everything looked impossible. Remembering how He carried you through seasons you didn't think you could survive. Every act of God's faithfulness in your past becomes a stone in the foundation of your faith for the future. The more you know God, the more confident you become in running to Him. The more you run to Him, the safer you feel, no matter how unstable life gets. And that safety, that security, that unshakable foundation, that's what creates mental strength that can withstand anything. Lesson 20. Plans. Fail for lack of counsel. Proverbs chapter 15 verse 22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." When life is unstable and you're trying to navigate difficult situations, trying to make important decisions that could have major consequences, trying to figure out the best path forward when nothing is clear, you desperately need wisdom from multiple sources. You need perspective beyond your own limited viewpoint. You need the insight that comes from seeking counsel from people who can see what you can't see. Mental strength includes the wisdom and humility to know when you need to ask for help, when you need to seek advice, when you need to bring other people into your decision-making process. It's not weakness to say, "I need input on this. I need other perspectives. I need someone to help me see what I'm not seeing." It's profound wisdom. Some of the absolute worst decisions are made in isolation, when you only have your own limited, biased, emotionally charged perspective guiding you. When you're in the middle of a situation, when you're emotionally invested, when you're stressed and afraid, you often can't see clearly. Your judgment is compromised, your perspective is skewed, you have blind spots you're not even aware of. But when you seek counsel from wise people, from people who have experience in the area you're navigating, from people who have your best interests genuinely at heart, from people who can be objective because they're not emotionally entangled in your situation, you gain access to wisdom you don't have on your own. Find people who are wise. Not just people who will tell you what you want to hear, not just people who will automatically agree with whatever you've already decided, but people who will be honest with you, who will ask hard questions, who will point out potential problems you haven't considered, who will challenge your assumptions, who will help you see the situation more clearly. These should be people who have experience, who have walked similar paths, who have wisdom that comes from living, from making mistakes and learning from them, from succeeding and understanding what led to that success. They should be people of character and integrity, people whose lives demonstrate wisdom, not just people who sound smart or give advice freely. Seek them out intentionally. Don't just hope good counsel will randomly come your way. Be deliberate about asking for help. Schedule time to sit down with them. Explain your situation fully and honestly, not just the parts that make you look good. Ask specific questions. Listen carefully to what they say. Take notes. Really engage with their perspective, even if it's different from yours. Multiple advisors give you multiple perspectives. What you might not see, someone else absolutely will. The blind spot you have about yourself or your situation, someone else will point out clearly. The risk you're not considering because you're too focused on potential benefits, someone else will raise as a red flag. The opportunity you're missing because you're too discouraged to see it, someone else will highlight. This collective wisdom significantly increases your chances of making good decisions, of avoiding pitfalls, of succeeding in what you're trying to accomplish. Plans fail for lack of counsel. With many advisors, they succeed. But here's the critical key. The part that makes this actually work. You have to be genuinely willing to listen, not just go through the motions of asking for advice and then doing whatever you wanted to do anyway. You have to be open to actually changing your mind. You have to be humble enough to admit when someone else's idea is better than yours. You have to be teachable enough to adjust your plans based on what you hear. If you're only seeking counsel to validate what you've already decided, if you're only looking for people who will rubber stamp your plans, if you're going to reject any advice that doesn't align with what you want to do, you're not really seeking counsel. You're seeking agreement. And that's not going to help you. That's not going to strengthen your decisions. That's not going to protect you from mistakes. True counsel requires humility, openness, a genuine willingness to be influenced by wisdom beyond your own. And when you approach it that way, when you really listen and really consider what wise people are telling you, your plans become stronger, your decisions become wiser, your outcomes become better. Lesson 21. A kind-hearted woman gains honor. Proverbs chapter 11 verse 16 says, "A kind-hearted woman gains honor, but ruthless men gain only wealth." While this proverb specifically mentions women and men, the principle applies universally to all of us. In a world that often equates strength with hardness, with aggression, with looking out for number one at all costs, with doing whatever it takes to get ahead even if it means stepping on others, this proverb reminds us of a profound truth. Genuine strength is found in kindness, in compassion, in treating others with dignity and respect. Mental strength isn't about being ruthless. It's not about crushing others to get ahead. It's not about being hard and cold and uncaring. It's not about building yourself up by tearing others down. It's not about winning at all costs, regardless of who gets hurt in the process. Real strength, lasting strength, honorable strength, the kind of strength that actually matters, is rooted in kindness. When you're kind, especially when life is incredibly hard, especially when you have every reason to be bitter or harsh or self-centered, especially when you're hurting and struggling yourself, that's when your strength is most genuinely evident. Kindness requires strength because it's not the easy path. It's actually easier to be harsh. It's easier to be selfish and only think about yourself. It's easier to be cold and dismissive. It's easier to be ruthless in pursuit of what you want. But choosing kindness, choosing to consider others even when you're barely holding yourself together, choosing to be compassionate even when you're hurting deeply, choosing to treat people with respect and dignity even when they don't deserve it or can't do anything for you, that takes real inner strength. And here's what happens when you're kind-hearted, when you consistently treat others with compassion and respect. You gain honor, not necessarily wealth, not necessarily fame, not necessarily ease or comfort, but honor, respect that's genuine, a reputation that means something, the knowledge that you lived with integrity and made the world better by being in it, the awareness that people's lives were blessed by knowing you. The satisfaction of knowing you didn't have to compromise your character to achieve your goals. You gain the kind of honor that can't be purchased, can't be faked, can't be manufactured through image management or public relations. You gain honor that comes from character, from consistent kindness, from treating people well over time, regardless of what you could gain from them. Ruthless men, ruthless people, they might gain wealth. They might get ahead financially. They might achieve impressive external success, but that's all they gain. They don't gain respect, not genuine respect. They don't gain honor. They don't gain relationships that are real and meaningful. They don't gain peace. They don't gain the satisfaction of knowing they achieved things the right way. In unstable times, when everyone is stressed and struggling and on edge, when people are hurting and vulnerable and afraid, your kindness can be a lifeline for someone. Your compassion can be the thing that keeps someone going for one more day. Your gentle response when they're harsh can be the peace in their storm. Your refusal to participate in office politics and gossip can be a breath of fresh air. Your willingness to help when you don't have to can restore someone's faith in humanity. Don't underestimate the power of kindness. It's not weakness. It's not being soft or naive or foolish. It's one of the highest, most challenging, most beautiful forms of strength there is. Be the person who remains kind even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it, even when others don't reciprocate, even when it costs you something. Be the person who treats others with dignity and respect, regardless of their position or status or what they can do for you. Be the person who responds with compassion when others are cruel. Be the person who lifts others up instead of tearing them down. That's mental strength. That's spiritual maturity. That's the kind of person the world desperately needs, especially in unstable times. Lesson 22. Where there is no revelation, people cast off restraint. Proverbs, chapter 29, verse 18 says, "Where there is no revelation, people cast off restraint, but blessed is the one who heeds wisdom's instruction." When you lose sight of God's vision for your life, when you lose touch with His Word, when you drift away from spiritual truth and revelation, when you stop grounding yourself in something bigger than your own desires and impulses, you lose your moral compass. You lose your boundaries. You lose the restraint that keeps you from making destructive choices. Mental strength requires staying deeply, consistently, intentionally connected to God's revelation, to His Word, to His truth. This is what keeps you grounded when everything around you is shifting and unstable. This is what gives you clear direction when everyone else is confused and wandering aimlessly. This is what provides boundaries that protect you from making decisions you'll deeply regret, decisions that will cause tremendous pain and damage. In unstable times, when life is hard and you're under immense pressure, when you're stressed and desperate for relief, there's a powerful temptation to abandon your convictions, to lower your standards, to compromise your values, to cast off the restraints of wisdom and godliness because maintaining them feels too hard, too costly, too restrictive when you're already struggling. You start thinking, just this once won't hurt. The rules don't apply in this extreme situation. I need to do whatever it takes. God will understand. I'll get back on track later once things stabilize. But casting off restraint never ever leads anywhere good. It never brings the relief you're hoping for. It leads to more chaos, more pain, more problems, more regret, more damage that takes years to repair. The boundaries God gives you, the restraints that His wisdom provides, they're not there to restrict your joy or limit your freedom. They're there to protect you from destroying yourself, from hurting others, from making choices that will haunt you. When there's no revelation, when you're not staying connected to God's Word, when you're not seeking His wisdom, when you're not anchoring yourself in truth, it becomes incredibly easy to rationalize anything, to justify choices you know are wrong. To convince yourself that your particular situation is different, that the usual principles don't apply to you, that you're entitled to do whatever feels necessary in the moment. But revelation, God's truth, His word, it keeps you grounded. It keeps you honest. It keeps you on the right path, even when the wrong path looks more appealing, more practical, more necessary. Stay in God's word. Not just reading it casually when you happen to think about it, but really immersing yourself in it, really studying it, really meditating on it, really letting it shape your thinking, your values, your decisions, your entire life. Keep seeking His wisdom actively. Don't drift. Don't let the pressure of circumstances pull you away from the truth you know. The revelation of Scripture is your anchor. It's what keeps you stable when everything else is completely unstable. It's what gives you clarity when everything else is utterly confusing. It's what empowers you to make wise, godly choices when everyone around you is making foolish, destructive ones. Blessed is the one who heeds wisdom's instruction, even when it's difficult, even when it costs you something you want. Even when it would be easier, more convenient, more immediately gratifying to compromise. The blessing isn't always immediate. The blessing isn't always obvious, but it's always real, always worth it, always better than the alternative. Lesson 23. Gray hair is a crown of splendor. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 31 says, "Gray hair is a crown of splendor. It is attained in the way of righteousness." Indeed, this proverb honors something our culture often dismisses or even disdains: the wisdom that comes with age, with experience, with years and years of walking with God through every kind of season, every kind of challenge, every kind of circumstance life can throw at you. When life gets unstable, when you're facing situations you've never encountered before, when you're navigating territory that's completely unfamiliar and frightening, there is tremendous, incalculable value in learning from people who have lived longer than you, who have weathered more storms than you, who have the kind of perspective that only comes from decades of faithfulness, decades of seeing God work, decades of experiencing His provision and protection and guidance. Don't dismiss the wisdom of elderly people. Don't think that because they're from a different generation, because they grew up in a different era, because they don't understand current technology or trends, that they have nothing valuable to offer you. Don't make the arrogant mistake of assuming that your generation has figured out something they missed, that the challenges you face are so unique that their experience is irrelevant. The person with gray hair, the person who has lived a long life walking in righteousness, who has followed God faithfully through decades of ups and downs, they have seen economic downturns before. They've navigated relationship challenges and family crises. They've experienced loss and disappointment and crushing uncertainty. They've faced health scares. They've dealt with betrayal and heartbreak. They've walked through financial hardship. They've questioned and doubted and struggled. And through it all, they've watched God be faithful. They have stories of provision when they didn't know where the next meal would come from. They have testimonies of answered prayer that seemed impossible. They have memories of unexpected breakthroughs that only God could have orchestrated. They have lessons learned the hard way, through painful mistakes that left permanent marks. They have wisdom that was purchased at a high price through suffering and endurance. This wisdom, this hard-won perspective, this deep knowledge of God's faithfulness over decades, it's invaluable. It's a crown of splendor. It's something to be honored, sought after, learned from, treasured. Mental strength includes the humility to learn from those who have gone before you, to recognize that you don't have to figure everything out on your own to benefit from wisdom that's already been gained through someone else's journey. Seek out mentors who are older, significantly older, who have walked with God for decades. Find people whose faith has been tested and proven over many years. Look for those whose character has been refined through long obedience in the same direction. Ask them questions, lots of questions. Listen to their stories, really listen. Learn from their mistakes so you don't have to make all the same ones yourself. Benefit from their wisdom so you can navigate your challenges with insight they've already gained through their own struggles. Ask them how they've maintained faith when it didn't make sense, how they've kept their marriage strong through difficult seasons, how they've handled financial setbacks, how they've dealt with disappointment when their plans fell apart, how they've processed loss and grief, how they've found joy in hard times, how they've kept going when they wanted to quit. Their answers, their stories, their hard-won wisdom can save you years of unnecessary pain, can help you avoid pitfalls they fell into, can give you courage to face what you're facing because they faced similar things and survived, even thrived. And if you're the one with gray hair, if you're the one who has walked with God for many years, who has stories to tell and wisdom to share, don't hide it. Don't think you have nothing to offer. Don't believe the lie that the younger generation doesn't want to hear from you or won't value what you have to say. Your experience, your wisdom, your testimony of God's faithfulness over decades, it's a crown of splendor. It's something precious and valuable that the next generation desperately needs. Share it. Mentor younger people. Tell your stories. Pass down the wisdom you've gained. Help others build the kind of faith and mental strength that has sustained you through your own journey. Lesson 24. A friend loves at all times. Proverbs chapter 17 verse 17 says, "A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity." When life gets unstable, when everything falls apart, when you're going through the hardest season you've ever faced, you discover very quickly who your real friends are. You learn the difference between genuine friends and fair-weather acquaintances. Fair-weather friends are great when things are going well, when you're successful and happy and fun to be around, when being associated with you benefits them in some way. But when things get hard, when you're struggling, when being your friend requires actual sacrifice and effort and discomfort, they disappear. They're suddenly too busy. They stop returning calls. They make excuses. They drift away. But true friends, genuine friends, the kind of friends who are actually worth having, they stick around. They show up. They love you at all times. Not just when it's convenient or comfortable or mutually beneficial. They love you when you're at your worst. When you're difficult, when you're emotional and irrational, when you're not fun to be around, when you have nothing to offer them except need. Mental strength is built and sustained in the context of genuine relationships like these. You're not meant to navigate life alone. You're not meant to face your struggles in isolation. You're not meant to carry your burdens by yourself. You need people who will stand with you in adversity, who will encourage you when you're discouraged, who will speak truth when you're confused, who will pray with you and for you when you're afraid, who will simply sit with you when words aren't enough. But here's the critical thing to understand. To have that kind of friend, you have to be that kind of friend. This is reciprocal. If you want people to love you at all times, you have to love them at all times. If you want people to show up for you in adversity, you have to show up for them in theirs. Are you the person who loves at all times? Are you the person who shows up when it's hard? Are you the person who sticks around even when things get messy and uncomfortable? Are you the friend who can be counted on in adversity? Or are you a fair-weather friend yourself? When someone you care about is going through a hard time, do you show up? Do you make time for them even when you're busy? Do you listen even when it's draining? Do you help even when it costs you something? Do you stay even when it's awkward and you don't know what to say? Do you keep checking in even when they push you away because they're hurting? Cultivating deep, genuine, meaningful friendships takes time and significant effort, but it's absolutely worth it. These relationships become one of your greatest sources of strength when life gets unstable. They remind you powerfully that you're not alone. They provide encouragement exactly when you need it most. They offer perspective when you can't see clearly. They pray for you when you don't have the words or the faith in that moment. They simply be with you when there's nothing to be done except not be alone. Don't take these friendships for granted. Don't neglect them when life gets busy. Don't assume they'll always be there if you never invest in maintaining them. Be intentional about staying connected. Make time for your friends even when it's inconvenient. Check in regularly. Show up for the big moments and the small ones. Celebrate their victories, mourn their losses, be present in their lives. And when someone shows up for you in a time of adversity, when someone loves you at a time when you have nothing to offer in return, when someone proves themselves to be a true friend through their actions during your hardest season, remember that. Remember what it felt like to have someone stand with you. Remember the value of that friendship, and make sure you reciprocate when they need you. A friend loves at all times. A brother is born for a time of adversity. These aren't just nice sentiments, they're descriptions of the kind of relationships that make life survivable, that make mental strength sustainable, that remind us we're not alone in this journey. Lesson 25. The righteous care about justice for the poor. Proverbs. Chapter 29, verse 7 says, "The righteous care about justice for the poor, but the wicked have no such concern." Mental strength isn't just about your own well-being, your own stability, your own survival. It's also about having the strength, the character, the compassion to care about others, even when you're going through your own struggles, even when you're barely holding things together yourself. When life is unstable for you, when you're dealing with your own problems and pressures and pains, it's incredibly easy to become completely self-absorbed, so consumed with your own situation that you stop seeing the needs around you. You become blind to the suffering of others. You lose concern for justice. You stop caring about people who are marginalized, vulnerable, struggling even more than you are. But righteousness, true godly character, includes maintaining a heart of compassion even in hard times. It includes maintaining a concern for justice even when you're dealing with injustice in your own life. It includes maintaining awareness that others are struggling too, often far worse than you, with fewer resources, less support, fewer options. There's something powerful, something transformative that happens when you take your focus off your own problems long enough to help someone else with theirs. When you give, even though you don't feel like you have much to give. When you serve, even though you're exhausted. When you advocate for others, even though you need advocacy yourself. When you fight for justice for someone else, even though your own situation feels unjust. It shifts something in your spirit. It breaks the grip of self-pity and victimhood. It reminds you that you have something to offer, even in your weakness. It connects you to a purpose beyond yourself, beyond your own survival. It gives you perspective on your own situation. It activates something in your soul that was designed to care, to give, to serve, to fight for what's right. Caring about justice for the poor, caring about those who are marginalized and oppressed and without advocates, caring about those who are suffering and vulnerable, it's not just a moral obligation, though it is that. It's also a pathway to mental and spiritual health. Self-absorption makes you weaker, more fragile, more prone to despair. But compassion, active concern for others, it makes you stronger. When you can look beyond yourself and genuinely care about others, even in hard seasons of your own life, when you can maintain compassion, when you have every excuse to be completely self-focused, that's evidence of real inner strength. That's evidence of character that's been refined and matured. That's evidence of a heart that hasn't been hardened by difficulty. Find ways to serve, even in small ways, even from your place of struggle. Give what you can, even if it seems insignificant. Speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. Be part of the solution to someone else's problem. Fight for justice in whatever sphere of influence you have. Use your voice for those who have no voice. Use your resources, however limited, to bless others. Use your time to serve. Use your platform, however small, to advocate. You'll find, often to your surprise, that it strengthens you in ways you didn't expect. That serving others when you're struggling somehow makes your own burden feel lighter. That fighting for justice for others gives you renewed strength to face your own battles. That giving when you feel depleted somehow leaves you feeling more full, not more empty. This is the mystery of kingdom living. You receive by giving, you're strengthened by serving, you find your life by losing it in service to others. Lesson 26. Discipline your children. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 17 says, "Discipline your children, and they will give you peace. They will bring you the delights you desire." If you're a parent navigating unstable times, if you're trying to hold your family together while everything around you feels like it's falling apart, one of the most important things you can do for your own mental strength and for your children's future well-being is to maintain consistent, loving, appropriate discipline. When life is chaotic, when you're stressed and overwhelmed and stretched beyond your limits, when you're barely keeping your own head above water, it's incredibly tempting to let discipline slide. You're too tired to deal with it. You don't have the emotional energy for conflict. You just want peace, even if it's temporary peace purchased by avoiding necessary correction. Or you swing the other direction and become too harsh, too reactive, with no patience left because you're running on empty. But neither approach serves your children well, and neither one actually gives you the peace you're desperately seeking. Children need structure, especially when everything else feels unstable and chaotic. They need boundaries that help them feel safe. They need to know what's expected of them. They need consistent consequences for their actions that help them understand cause and effect, that help them develop self-control and good judgment. This isn't about being controlling or authoritarian or harsh. It's about providing the security that comes from clear expectations and loving guidance, even when it's hard, even when you're exhausted. When you discipline your children well, when you invest the time and emotional energy to correct them appropriately, to teach them, to guide them, to follow through consistently even when it's difficult, it pays enormous dividends. Not immediately, necessarily. Discipline is an investment that pays off over time. They grow up with self-control instead of impulsivity. They understand that actions have consequences. They develop respect for authority that serves them well throughout life. They learn how to make good choices instead of just doing whatever feels good in the moment. They internalize values instead of just externally complying when someone's watching. And as they mature, as they move into adolescence and adulthood, they bring you peace rather than constant chaos and stress. They bring you delight rather than endless worry and heartache. They become people you respect and admire and genuinely enjoy being around, not just people you're obligated to love because they're your children. Parenting is hard work under any circumstances. It's even harder in unstable times when you're dealing with your own stress and struggles. But don't neglect discipline because you're tired or overwhelmed or conflict avoidant. Your children need you to be strong enough to set appropriate boundaries, strong enough to follow through consistently, strong enough to say no when necessary, even when they're upset about it, strong enough to correct them when they need correction, even when it's uncomfortable. That's love. That's genuine care for their well-being and future. That's strength. And it will serve both you and them incredibly well in the long run, even though it requires tremendous energy and effort in the present. Be consistent. Be fair. Be firm but also gentle. Be quick to forgive and restore relationship after discipline. Make sure they know the discipline is about their behavior, not about your rejection of them. Make sure they understand you discipline them because you love them too much to let them continue in destructive patterns. And model what you're trying to teach them. You can't discipline them for things you do yourself. You can't expect self-control from them if you have none. You can't teach them to handle emotions appropriately if you're constantly losing your temper. They're watching how you handle instability, stress, difficulty. They're learning from your example even more than from your words. Lesson 27. Do not withhold good from those who deserve it. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 27 says, "Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in your power to act." When life is unstable, when you're worried about your own needs, when resources feel scarce, when you're afraid there won't be enough, there's a powerful temptation to become stingy, to hoard, to hold back from blessing others because you're worried about taking care of yourself. But mental strength, kingdom strength, includes generosity. It includes the ability to give even when you don't feel like you have much, to bless others even when you're struggling yourself, to share even when you're afraid there won't be enough. It includes recognizing when you have the power to do good for someone and then actually doing it, not making excuses, not procrastinating, not rationalizing why you can't afford to be generous right now. When you can be generous in hard times, when you can give when it costs you something, it's a profound act of faith. It's a living declaration that you trust God to provide for you, that your security isn't in what you can hoard and protect, that you believe in abundance rather than scarcity, that you know God as your provider, not your bank account or your stockpile of resources. If someone deserves payment for work they've done, pay them promptly. If someone deserves recognition for their contribution, recognize them publicly. If someone deserves help and you have the capacity to help them, help them. Don't withhold good when it's in your power to give it. Don't make excuses about why now isn't the right time. Don't procrastinate and then forget. Don't rationalize why you can't afford to be generous when honestly you could. It would just require some sacrifice. Generosity breaks the grip of fear and scarcity thinking. When you give, when you share, when you bless others, even when your own situation is uncertain, you're reminding yourself at the deepest level that God is your source, not your bank account. You're participating in His economy, which operates on principles that completely defy human logic and natural laws. You're sowing seeds that will come back to you, maybe not immediately, probably not in the exact way you expect, but they will come back multiplied. And here's something beautiful about generosity. It actually makes you feel stronger, not weaker. When you can give, even when it costs you something, when you can bless others even in your own hard season, you tap into a strength that transcends your circumstances. You realize you have more to offer than you thought. You experience the joy, the deep satisfaction that comes from making a positive difference in someone else's life. You feel more alive, more purposeful, more connected to something bigger than your own survival. Generosity is contagious. When you give, you inspire others to give. When you're generous, you create a culture of generosity around you. When you share, others feel empowered to share. You become part of a beautiful cycle of blessing that lifts everyone involved. So don't withhold good. Look for opportunities to bless others. Be quick to give, to help, to share. Be generous with your money, yes, but also with your time, your energy, your encouragement, your prayers, your presence, your attention, your skills, your resources. When it's in your power to act, to do good for someone, do it. Don't overthink it. Don't hesitate. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just do it. Lesson 28. A generous person will prosper. Proverbs chapter 11 verse 25 says, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." This builds beautifully on the previous lesson, but adds an explicit promise. Generosity leads to prosperity. Not necessarily financial prosperity, though it absolutely can include that. But prosperity in every sense that actually matters. emotional prosperity, relational prosperity, spiritual prosperity, the prosperity of peace and joy and purpose and meaning. When you're generous with your time, with your resources, with your encouragement, with your prayers, with your attention, with everything you have to offer, you're investing in a kingdom economy that always produces a return. You refresh others, and the promise is that you will be refreshed. You bless others, and you will be blessed. You give, and it will be given back to you, pressed down, shaken together, running over. Mental strength comes from understanding this counterintuitive kingdom principle and actually living by it, even when it doesn't make logical sense according to worldly wisdom. When you're barely making it financially, when money is tight and you're worried about paying bills, giving feels risky, it feels foolish, it feels like you're taking from yourself and your family to give to someone else. When you're emotionally drained, when you're running on empty, when you feel like you have nothing left, encouraging others feels exhausting. It feels like one more thing being demanded of you when you have nothing left to give. When you're overwhelmed with your own problems, when your plate is overflowing with difficulties and challenges and responsibilities, praying for someone else feels like one more burden added to an already impossible load. But here's the mystery. The beautiful paradox of kingdom living. When you do it anyway, when you give anyway, when you serve anyway, when you bless others anyway despite feeling depleted, you find yourself strengthened. You discover you had more capacity than you realized. You experience joy breaking through in the midst of your own difficulty. You feel a sense of purpose that transcends your own pain. You see God provide in unexpected ways. It's as if God multiplies your capacity when you use it for others. It's as if your resources stretch further when you share them. It's as if your energy renews when you spend it serving. It defies logic. It contradicts natural laws. But it's true. It works. It's how God's economy functions. Don't wait until you feel like you have enough to start being generous. You'll never feel like you have enough. There will always be reasons to hold back, to be cautious, to protect what you have. Start now. Give what you have right now, whatever that is. Share what you can right now, however limited it feels. Refresh someone else right now, even though you feel like you need refreshing yourself. And watch what happens. Watch how God meets your needs. Watch how provision comes from unexpected sources. Watch how you're refreshed in the process of refreshing others. Watch how you prosper in ways you couldn't have arranged or manufactured on your own. This isn't a formula you can manipulate to get what you want. It's not about giving in order to get. That's the wrong heart entirely. It's about genuinely giving out of love, out of compassion, out of a desire to bless others, and then discovering that God takes care of you in the process, that He doesn't let you run dry, that He provides what you need as you provide for others. The generous person prospers, not always in obvious, immediate, external ways, but always in real, lasting, meaningful ways, in peace, in joy, in relationships, in purpose, in the satisfaction of knowing you made a difference, in seeing God's faithfulness, in experiencing His provision, in the strength that comes from living generously rather than fearfully. Lesson 29. The wise prevail through great power. Proverbs chapter 24 verse 5 says, "The wise prevail through great power, and those who have knowledge muster their strength." This is a crucial lesson about the nature of real strength, real power. Mental strength isn't just about raw willpower or sheer determination or gritting your teeth and pushing through by force of will alone. It's about wisdom. It's about strategic thinking. It's about applying knowledge and understanding in ways that multiply your effectiveness exponentially. When life gets unstable, you can work incredibly hard. You can pour enormous amounts of energy into your efforts. You can exhaust yourself with constant striving and still not make meaningful progress if you're not working wisely. You can be busy without being productive. You can expend tremendous effort on the wrong things. You can fight battles that don't actually matter. You can wear yourself out completely without accomplishing what truly needs to be done. Wisdom helps you prevail, helps you succeed, helps you overcome because it helps you see what really matters most. It helps you discern what's essential versus what's merely urgent. It helps you prioritize effectively. It helps you use your limited time and energy on the things that will make the biggest difference. It helps you avoid unnecessary struggles and wasted effort. It helps you find solutions that others miss because they're just throwing brute force at problems without thinking strategically. Those who have knowledge muster their strength. This means that when you've invested deeply in learning, in growing, in gaining understanding, in developing wisdom, you have resources to draw from when you need them desperately. You have tools in your toolbox. You have strategies you can try. You have frameworks for thinking through problems. You have insights that guide your decisions. You have perspective that helps you see the bigger picture. This is exactly why continuous learning is so vitally important. This is why staying consistently in God's Word is crucial for your spiritual strength. This is why seeking counsel from wise people matters so much. You're building a deep reservoir of wisdom and knowledge that becomes tangible, practical strength when you need it most urgently. You're not just relying on raw effort or willpower, which are finite and get depleted. You're relying on insight and understanding that make your efforts far more effective, that help you work smarter rather than just harder, that enable you to accomplish more with less wasted energy because you're being strategic rather than just reactive. Think about two people facing the same challenge. One person just throws themselves at the problem with brute force, working long hours, trying harder and harder, but without really understanding the problem or thinking strategically about solutions. The other person takes time to understand the situation deeply, seeks wisdom from others who've faced similar challenges, develops a thoughtful strategy, and then acts decisively based on that wisdom. Who's going to prevail? Who's going to succeed? Almost always, it's the person with wisdom, not just the person with more effort. The wise prevail through great power, not necessarily because they work harder than everyone else, but because they work wiser, because they see what others miss, because they understand what others don't, because they apply knowledge strategically, because they make better decisions, because they avoid pitfalls that trap others, because they find paths forward that others couldn't see. This is real power. This is lasting strength. This is what enables you to prevail when others fail, not because you're somehow superior, but because you've invested in gaining wisdom and you know how to apply it effectively. Lesson 30. Mockers stir up a city. Proverbs chapter 29 verse 8 says, "Mockers stir up a city, but the wise turn away anger." When life is unstable, when communities are stressed, when tensions are high, there are always people who make everything worse by mocking, by criticizing destructively, by stirring up division and negativity and anger. They complain about everything and everyone. They tear down anyone who tries to make things better or offer solutions. They spread cynicism and bitterness. They create discord and conflict. They mock hope, mock faith, mock anyone who tries to remain positive or optimistic. Mental strength includes refusing absolutely to be one of those people. It includes choosing deliberately and consistently to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. It includes using your words to build up rather than tear down, to encourage rather than discourage, to bring peace rather than stir up anger and division. The wise turn away anger. When someone is upset, when tensions are rising, when conflict is brewing, the wise person de-escalates. They speak calmly. They seek to understand. They look for common ground. They redirect energy toward constructive solutions rather than destructive conflict. When there's tension in a room, the wise person brings calm. When there's division in a community, the wise person seeks unity. When people are angry and wanting to lash out, the wise person helps channel that energy toward productive action rather than destructive reaction. This doesn't mean ignoring real problems or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It doesn't mean avoiding necessary confrontation or refusing to address issues that need to be addressed. But it means doing so in constructive ways rather than destructive ways. It means solving problems rather than just complaining about them. It means building bridges rather than burning them. Don't be a mocker. Don't be the person who makes everything worse with your negativity and cynicism. Don't be the person who criticizes constantly from the sidelines without ever offering solutions or actually helping. Don't be the person who tears down others' efforts because you're unhappy or frustrated or feeling powerless. Don't be the person who stirs up anger and division because misery loves company and you want others to be as upset as you are. Be the wise person instead. Be the one who turns away anger before it escalates into something destructive. Be the one who brings peace into chaos. Be the one who encourages when others are discouraging. Be the one who points people toward hope when others are spreading despair. Be the one who offers solutions instead of just identifying problems. Be the one who builds up instead of tears down. That's mental strength. That's spiritual maturity. That's leadership. That's the kind of person every community desperately needs, especially in unstable times when tensions are high and people are afraid and hurting. Your words matter. Your attitude matters. Your influence matters. Use them wisely. Use them to bring light, not darkness, peace, not conflict, hope, not despair, unity, not division. Lesson 31. The righteous detest the dishonest proverbs. Chapter 29, verse 27 says, "The righteous detest dishonesty, but the wicked detest the upright." Mental strength includes having clear, non-negotiable values and standing by them regardless of cost or convenience. It includes detesting dishonesty with your whole being, refusing completely to compromise your integrity, insisting on truth even when lies would be easier or more profitable or more convenient. When life is unstable, when you're under pressure, when you're desperate for relief or advancement or solution, there's often significant pressure to cut corners, to be dishonest in small ways that seem justified by circumstances, to compromise your values, to get ahead, or just to survive. Maybe it's exaggerating on a resume or application. Maybe it's fudging numbers on taxes. Maybe it's being dishonest with a client or customer. Maybe it's lying to avoid conflict or consequences. Maybe it's cheating in small ways that you rationalize. Maybe it's being deceptive in relationships to avoid difficult conversations. But every single time you compromise your integrity, even in what seems like a small way, you weaken yourself. You erode your own character bit by bit. You become someone you don't fully respect. You lose self-trust. You create inner conflict. You build a life on a foundation of deception that will eventually crumble. The righteous detest dishonesty. It bothers them deeply, viscerally when they see it, when they're asked to participate in it, when they're tempted toward it. They have such a strong commitment to truth and integrity that dishonesty feels wrong at a core level, in their gut, in their spirit. This commitment to honesty, this detesting of dishonesty, it protects you. It keeps you from entanglements that would complicate your life immensely. It keeps your conscience clear so you can sleep at night. It builds a reputation over time that serves you extraordinarily well. It allows you to look yourself in the mirror with respect. It creates a foundation of trust in your relationships. Yes, sometimes being honest costs you opportunities. Sometimes standing by your values means missing out on shortcuts others are taking. Sometimes, integrity means you advance more slowly than those who are willing to compromise. Sometimes truth-telling results in conflict or loss. But in the long run, integrity always wins. Character always matters. Trust is priceless, and the mental and spiritual strength that comes from knowing you've lived with honesty, that you've maintained your integrity even when it cost you, is worth infinitely more than any temporary gain from dishonesty. When you lie, even small lies, even lies that seem necessary or harmless, you have to remember them. You have to maintain them. You have to build more lies to support them. It's exhausting. It's complicated. It creates anxiety about being discovered. It damages relationships because real intimacy requires truth. But when you live in truth, when you're consistently honest, you have nothing to hide, nothing to remember, nothing to maintain. Your life is simpler, your relationships are real, your conscience is clear, your mind is at peace. Detest dishonesty. Commit yourself completely to truth and integrity. Let this be a core value, non-negotiable, that guides every decision, every interaction, every choice. Lesson 32. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 30 says, "Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised." While this proverb specifically mentions women, the principle it teaches applies universally to all of us. It's about understanding what has real, lasting value versus what's superficial and temporary. When life gets unstable, it has a way of revealing what's real and what's illusion. Charm can deceive you. It can make people seem better than they are. It can mask character problems. It can hide real intentions. Beauty fades. It doesn't last. External things that seem so important, that our culture obsesses over, they don't hold up under real pressure. But character does hold up. Faith does endure. The fear of the Lord, that deep reverence and relationship with God that lasts, that sustains, that matters when everything else is stripped away. Mental strength comes from investing in what lasts. Invest in your character. Invest deeply in your relationship with God. Invest in becoming a person of substance, depth, integrity, wisdom. Don't focus primarily on how things look on the outside, on maintaining a certain image, on being charming or attractive according to worldly standards. Focus on who you're becoming on the inside, on the person you are when nobody's watching, on the character that emerges under pressure. This is especially vital in a culture that's absolutely obsessed with image, with appearance, with surface-level impressions. Social media rewards charm and beauty and the appearance of having it all together. The world celebrates people who look good, who present well, who have the right image. But it's all so shallow, so temporary, so ultimately meaningless. When life gets hard, when real challenges come, when pressure reveals what's actually there, charm doesn't help you. Beauty doesn't sustain you. A carefully curated image falls apart. Only depth of character, only genuine faith, only real substance can carry you through. A person who fears the Lord, who has built their entire life on a solid foundation of faith and wisdom, who has invested in character rather than just image, that person is truly to be praised. That person has what it actually takes to endure. That person has real strength that doesn't crumble when the facade is stripped away by difficulty. That person has substance that survives when everything superficial is burned away. Be that person. Build that foundation, make those investments, spend less energy on how you appear and more energy on who you're becoming. Worry less about being impressive and more about being faithful. Focus less on charm and beauty and more on character and wisdom. When instability comes, and it will, you want to have substance to stand on, not just an attractive surface that collapses under pressure. Lesson 33. Listen to your father's instruction. Proverbs chapter 1 verse 8 says, "Listen, my son, to your father's instruction and do not forsake your mother's teaching." Now, throughout the entire book of Proverbs, there's a repeated, consistent emphasis on honoring your parents, on listening to their wisdom, on receiving their instruction, on not forsaking what they've taught you. Mental strength includes honoring the people who raised you, who invested in you, who taught you, who shaped you in your formative years. Even if your parents weren't perfect, and no parents are, even if they made mistakes, and all parents do, there's deep wisdom in respecting them and learning from them. They've lived longer than you. They've experienced things you haven't encountered yet. They've made mistakes you can learn from. They've gained wisdom you can benefit from. They care about you in ways that most other people in your life never will. They have perspective on your life that you don't have, because they've watched you from the beginning. When life gets unstable, when you're facing challenges you don't know how to navigate, go back to the foundational lessons your parents taught you. What values did they instill? What work ethic did they model? What faith did they pass down? What wisdom did they try to impart? These roots matter deeply. They provide stability when everything else is shaking. If you're blessed to still have your parents in your life, don't take them for granted. Don't let busy life keep you from connecting with them. Ask them questions. Seek their perspective. Learn from their experience. Let them speak into your life. Honor them with your respect and attention and time. If they're no longer with you, if they've passed away, honor their memory by living out the good things they taught you, by carrying forward the values they instilled, by being the person they hoped you would become. And if you're a parent yourself, remember that you're passing down far more than just information to your children. You're passing down values, character, faith, a way of seeing the world and navigating life. Your children are watching constantly how you handle instability. They're learning from your example even more than from your words. They're absorbing your attitudes, your responses to difficulty, your faith or lack of it. Make sure you're teaching them lessons worth learning, wisdom worth inheriting, faith worth holding on to. Make sure you're modeling the kind of mental and spiritual strength you want them to develop. Lesson 34. There is a way that appears right. Proverbs chapter 14 verse 12 delivers one of the most sobering, most crucial warnings in all of Proverbs. There is a way that appears to be right, but in the end, it leads to death. Just because something seems right doesn't mean it is right. Just because a path looks good doesn't mean it leads somewhere good. Just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean it's wise. Just because it makes sense to you doesn't mean it's true. Mental strength includes the wisdom and humility to question your own assumptions, to test your own perceptions, to seek truth beyond what merely appears to be right. You can be sincerely wrong. You can be confidently mistaken. You can be absolutely convinced you're on the right path and be heading directly toward destruction. This is why you desperately need God's word. This is why you need wise counsel from people you trust. This is why you need humility to admit you might be wrong. You might be deceived. You might be missing something crucial. You cannot just trust your own instincts, your own reasoning, your own feelings alone. They can lead you astray. They can deceive you. They can fail you. When you're navigating instability, making important decisions with significant consequences, don't just go with what feels right in the moment. Don't just follow your heart without question, as if your heart is always a reliable guide. Don't just trust your gut when your gut might be influenced by fear, by desire, by desperation, by pressure. Test it. Hold it up against Scripture. Does it align with God's word? Does it reflect His character? Does it lead toward Him or away from Him? Seek counsel from wise people whose judgment you trust. What do they see that you might not be seeing? What concerns do they raise? What wisdom do they offer? Pray earnestly and ask God to reveal if you're deceived, if you're missing something, if the path that looks so right is actually leading somewhere destructive. Be willing to change course if you discover you were wrong. Be willing to admit you made a mistake in judgment. This kind of humility, this willingness to question yourself, this openness to being corrected, it's crucial for mental strength because it keeps you from stubbornly pursuing a course that will ultimately harm you badly. It keeps you flexible, teachable, open to correction and redirection. It protects you from the kind of pride that leads to a devastating fall. Lesson 35. The end of a matter is better than its beginning. Proverbs chapter 7 verse 8 says, "The end of a matter is better than its beginning, and patience is better than pride." When life is unstable and you're in the very middle of a difficult, painful season, when you're struggling and can't see any light at the end of the tunnel, it's incredibly hard to imagine how this could possibly end well. It's hard to see how this situation could turn out okay. It's hard to have patience when you desperately want relief right now. But this proverb reminds us of a profound truth. The end of a matter is better than its beginning. The struggle you're in right now, it won't last forever. It will end. The instability you're experiencing, it's temporary, not permanent. The difficulty you're facing, it's preparing you, refining you, strengthening you for something better that's coming. The end will be better than the beginning. Mental strength includes the ability to hold on when you can't see the finish line yet. It includes trusting that God is working even when you can't see how. It includes having patience when everything in you wants to give up, to quit, to take a shortcut, to force a solution that isn't ready yet. Patience is better than pride. Pride makes you think you should be past this struggle already, that you shouldn't have to endure this, that you deserve better than this, that you're above having to wait, having to persevere through difficulty. But patience says something completely different. Patience says, I don't enjoy this at all, but I trust there's purpose in it. I don't understand the timing, but I trust God's timing is perfect. I can't see the end yet, but I believe with everything in me that the end will be good. Every difficult season has an end. Every struggle has a conclusion. Every period of instability eventually stabilizes. And when you look back, when you finally reach the end of the matter, you'll see things you couldn't see in the middle. You'll see how God was working behind the scenes. You'll see how you grew and changed and became stronger. You'll see how you were being prepared for what came next. You'll see that the end really was better than the beginning. So, hold on. Be patient. Keep trusting. Keep growing. Keep applying these lessons from Proverbs to your life. Your mental strength is being built right now, in this unstable time, and when you come through this season, and you will come through it, you'll be stronger, wiser, more resilient, more grounded, more unshakable than you were before. These 35 lessons from Proverbs aren't just ancient wisdom collecting dust in an old book. They're living truth that applies directly to your life right now, today, in whatever instability you're currently facing. They're practical tools for building mental strength that lasts. They're proven principles that work because they're rooted in God's eternal wisdom. I want to encourage you one final time. If this message has strengthened you, if these truths have helped you, if you feel like God has spoken to you through these ancient words of wisdom, don't keep them to yourself. Hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss future videos filled with more life-changing truth. Turn on the notification bell so you'll know immediately when new content is available. Give this video a like so more people can find it and be blessed by it. And please, I'm asking you earnestly, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Send it to a friend who's struggling. Post it for your social media connections who are going through hard times. You might be the one who gets this life-changing wisdom in front of someone who desperately needs it today, someone who's on the edge of giving up, someone who needs to know they can build unshakable strength even in unstable times. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeking wisdom. Thank you for being part of this global community. May God strengthen you abundantly with his wisdom. May he anchor your soul firmly in unstable times. May he build in you the kind of mental and spiritual strength that doesn't crumble under pressure but actually grows stronger through it. Go in peace, knowing that the wisdom of God is with you, actively guiding you, consistently sustaining you, continuously making you strong. May his presence be your fortress. May his word be your foundation. May his spirit be your strength. Amen and amen.